Welcome to our deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the iconic personal finance book by Robert Kiyosaki. Today, we're breaking down Chapter 1, The Rich Don't Work for Money. This chapter sets the stage for a revolutionary way of thinking about money, work, and wealth told through the eyes of a curious 9-year-old boy and the lessons he learns from two very different dads. So, grab a notebook, settle in, and let's explore how the rich think differently about money. It's the 1950s in Hawaii. A young Robert Kiyosaki, just 9 years old, is growing up with two father figures who couldn't be more different. There's his real dad, let's call him Poor Dad, a highly educated man with a steady government job as the head of education for the state of Hawaii. He's hardworking, responsible, and believes in the traditional path: go to school, get good grades, and land a secure job. Then there's Rich Dad, the father of Robert's best friend, Mike. Rich Dad didn't finish 8th grade, but he's a savvy businessman who owns warehouses, a construction company, and a chain of stores. He's not polished or academic, but he has a knack for making money work for him. These two dads become Robert's window into two opposing philosophies about money, and this chapter is where the journey begins. One day, young Robert and Mike are hanging out, flipping through comic books. They notice something. The richest kids at school don't sit with them at lunch. They're off in their own world, better clothes, fancier toys. That simple question, how do we get rich, lights a fire in Robert. He's tired of being the poor kid, and he's ready to learn. So, the boys hatch a plan. They'll ask Mike's dad, Rich Dad, to teach them the secret to wealth. Little do they know, they're about to get a lesson that flips everything Poor Dad ever taught Robert upside down. The next day, Robert and Mike march over to Rich Dad's convenience store. He's a tall, no-nonsense guy, busy running his business. The boys jump at the chance. 10 cents an hour isn't much, but it's a start. They're thrilled until the work begins. For the next few weeks, Robert and Mike show up every Saturday at Rich Dad's store. Their job? Sweeping floors, dusting shelves, hauling boxes, boring, back-breaking work. The excitement wears off fast. 10 cents an hour feels like a rip-off, especially when they see other kids riding bikes or eating ice cream while they're stuck working. After a month, Robert's had enough. He storms up to Rich Dad and quits. Robert's confused. Lesson? What lesson? All he's learned is how to hate sweeping floors. But Rich Dad isn't done. Rich Dad has a serious talk with the boys, and something clicks for Robert. He realizes he's been focusing on earning small amounts of money instead of learning how to build real wealth. However, he's still unsure how to break free from this cycle. That's when Rich Dad challenges them. Work for free. The idea seems strange, but Robert and Mike agree, intrigued by the opportunity to gain valuable knowledge. For the next few weeks, they show up without pay, driven purely by curiosity. During this time, Rich Dad begins teaching them in unconventional ways. Instead of just having them do chores, he involves them in his business activities. They watch as he buys a rundown property at a low price, renovates it, and rents it out. They observe him skillfully negotiate with suppliers, turning small amounts of money into larger returns. This is when Robert learns a new and crucial concept: assets. Unlike his poor dad, who always talks about earning salaries and saving money, Rich Dad emphasizes the importance of building assets, things that generate income on their own. The lesson is clear: don't chase money, focus on creating sources of wealth. One Saturday, Rich Dad's store gets a delivery of old comic books. The distributor usually tosses them when they don't sell, but Robert gets an idea. The boys grab the comics and set up a mini library in Mike's basement. They charge kids in the neighborhood a few cents to read as many as they want. No selling, just renting, pure profit. Soon, they're raking in $9.50 a week, way more than the 30 cents they made working for Rich Dad. And here's the kicker. They hire Mike's little sister to run it for a small cut, so they don't even have to show up. They've built their first asset, a tiny business that runs itself. Back home, Robert tells poor dad about their comic book hustle. He expects praise, but poor dad frowns. It's a clash of worlds. Poor dad sees work as a paycheck and security. Rich dad sees it as a trap to escape. Robert starts to notice something. Poor dad works hard, but he's always stressed about bills. Rich dad works less, yet his wealth keeps growing. One shuts down possibilities, the other opens them. Robert realizes poor dad's mindset keeps him broke, while rich dad's keeps him rich. Chapter 1 ends with Robert reflecting on these lessons. At 9 years old, Robert doesn't fully grasp it yet, but the seed is planted. He's starting to see money not as something to chase, but as something to master. And that's the heart of Chapter 1. It's not about how much you earn, it's about how you think. So, what's the takeaway from Chapter 1? It's simple but profound. Stop working for money. Start making it work for you. Whether it's a side hustle, an investment, or a new way of thinking, the rich don't trade time for dollars. They build systems that pay them forever.